the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast, where we are talking T20 World Cup Group B. We have been through the whole of Group A, so go back and listen to that if you forgot, fell asleep maybe, and want some information on India and Pakistan. Group B, it's all about Australia in Group B, isn't it? Surely the Australians, the current ODI world champions, the Ashes world champions, will they also be the world champions of T20 cricket? Max, talk to me.
Well, there's a lot to pick through with Australia, but we'll start with the basics. They are coached by Andrew McDonald, and they are captained by none other than the Bison, Mitchell Marsh, who's been unleashed as a force in T20 in the last couple of years since eschewing all other forms of cricket for Australia. And they'll be rocking up in their T20 Classic. It's not the gold / canary yellow, depending on which part of the world you're from. It's a fetching dark green that we'll be seeing Australia turn out in. But
so they blend in with the grass.
Yeah, maybe. Just you don't know where the fielders are, and that's part of why they're so good. It's the camo approach. It's not a bad idea. So Australia, they on the back, and since the last T20 World Cup, they put together a pretty impressive run in T20 internationals. 17 of 21 games they won before they ran into Pakistan and lost 3-0 in the last couple of weeks. I mean, they've been good. They've been pretty dominant. Maybe not as dominant as India can be, but they've been a force to be reckoned with. But they've stuttered recently, and there's some news that I'm sure you're all hoping that we'll get to. That means that maybe they're not going to be in quite as good a shape as they have been in recent times. Mitchell Starc retired from T20 internationals to no doubt focus on getting some bunts in the IPL in his last few years of his career, which is fair enough. Pat Cummins still injured, not returned properly since the Ashes. And adding to that, there's question marks over Adam Zambo, who felt a tight groin in one of the Pakistan warm-ups. And Josh Hazlewood has still not joined Australia's squad as he's still recovering from his various ailments. They're hoping that he'll be available to join still in the group stage of the tournament. But they've called in Sean Abbott as a backup, an emergency backup. So there are chances, probably fairly high chances, that we don't actually see Josh Hazlewood. We'll have to see how it goes. But that could have pretty big, ramifications for their chances. They start their group stages in Sri Lanka. So all of their group stage games are in Sri Lanka before they move over to India, which could also have a pretty big bearing on how well things go for Australia. And the other thing as well that they were sort of maligned for in the lineups in the lead up to the Ashes that didn't really end up causing too many problems, but people like to point it out anyway, is that perhaps it's a last hurrah for some of these guys. There's a bit of aging going on. Mitch Marsh, obviously no spring chicken. Glenn Maxwell, been around the block. There's a few younger guys in there, more so than I think with the Ashes. But again, you've got guys like Marcus Stoinis. Whether they'll turn up much again in the future, we don't know. So it could be, a last chance saloon for some of the team. Before I get on to my ratings, when you think Australia, do you still think like big powerhouse gonna run away with it, or do you think bit frail can be got at?
I think they're pretty frail. I still think they're decent. And I think the two-stage group stage means that they probably have a little bit longer than people think for Zampa and Hazlewood to get fit before it really matters. And if they do have those two, they're a different proposition, certainly bowling-wise. That's my summary.
Mm-hmm. Ross?
Yeah, we've learned on this podcast the hard way not to discount the elderly, and especially the elderly who wear yellow. So
yeah, and I think the joke's been made, hasn't it? All the stuff about Australian injuries, put your money on them immediately. Everything you own, stick it on Australia. It's a very Australia thing to do. So ratings. For the batting, I have I've gone close to all out. I couldn't give them 5 because I feel like that is reserved for India, but I've given them 4.5 because whatever injuries they've got, they are consigned to the bowling. And I was thinking, maybe they're a bit hit and miss, maybe they're a bit boom or bust. And then I started thinking of the names. Mitch Marsh, he's a man reborn in T20s. He averaged 37 at 157 strike rate in 2025 in T20s. That's quite good. Travis Head is Travis Head. Tim David and Stoinis, they can turn a game in an instant and at the back end of an innings. Glenn Maxwell also exists. He's the 5th name on the list for people who can do damage for Australia. So you just look at that and you think there is danger everywhere. Cam Green, he is a quality cricketer. He can cause problems as well. They're with the bat. They're a dangerous side. I haven't even mentioned Josh Inglis, and we've seen what he can do in T20s as well. There's talent. There's stacks of talent, and that batting side can win games on its own for sure. The only caveat maybe is the Sri Lankan pitches. It could be very low, slow spin, and I think we've seen signs that maybe doesn't suit them. I think Tim David can get sometimes held down a bit, particularly with spin away from him. Mitch Marsh, he's famous for not being able to play spin, although I think that's something that he's improved on a lot recently. And Glenn Maxwell in spinning pitches in the IPL mixes like oil and water. So there are concerns with some of the pitches they might play on, but there's a lot of quality in there. Bowling wise, Jack pretty much summed it up. With Hazelwood and Zampa, I've got them at a 4. Without them, there are 2. Nathan Ellis is decent. He's a good bowler, but aside from that, the spin without Zampa is a bit bits and pieces. I don't want to play Matt Kuhneman ever, and then you're looking at what is Glenn Maxwell doing the job. You're going to have Matt Short come in and bowl Dibbly Dobblers. Is Travis Head going to bowl? Cooper Connolly is highly rated, but not really done it on the big stage. So. Yeah, big question marks if Hazelwood and Zampa aren't about, and that's not even getting to the pace, right? Like Dwarshuis is fine, Xavier Bartlett is fine, Cameron Green, you don't want to be relying on 4 overs of Cameron Green, really. Sean Abbott, if he comes in, yeah, fine. They're missing a bit of firepower on the bowling front if Hazelwood and Zampa can't play. All rounders, 4 out of 5 for me. Like we mentioned all the names already, but they're strong, right? Maxwell, Stoinis, Cameron Green, all good players. Only caveat being there is an element of boom or bust to it, but that's 20 cricket, right? So you can't punish them too much for being slightly high variance.
Will they make the final, Max?
Will they make the final? That's the question, isn't it? Chances wise. Obviously they go into it among the favourites, or at least they did before all the injuries. I think the injuries do rob them of a lot. And I think with Zampa and Hazelwood, comfortable semi-finalists, very good shout for a final. Without them, I think they could be a spot of bother. I don't think they'll fall out in the early group stages just because of the way the groups are and the fact that there's not that much competition. But if you get through to the second group stage and they're still without their top players, then with the ball at least, then they could be they could be found out against some of the better sides. But I think they'll be comfortable semi-finalists, and as soon as you get to that stage, you never know. So they'll be there or thereabouts, one way or another. Their batting is good enough just to take them all the way alone until they run into India.
Cool. Let's do the artist.
The artist, I've got them down as Frida Kahlo.
Rolf Harris. Oh, okay.
we can't have. I've got a picture signed by Rolf Harris, or at least I
we
did
don't
when I
need
was.
to.
My mum found it in the loft once. Frida Kahlo in 1925 was involved in a tragic bus accident, which left her with severe injuries. Meant she had to spend months in bed. And she used that time to paint lying down, often with the help of a mirror above her bed. And that fueled her career as one of Mexico's most iconic artists. So Australia kind of could find themselves at least in a similar situation. Could they be robbed of their full strength by injury, but they could still be able to put some magic down on the canvas.
Very good. I like that. Roth, let's move on to Sri Lanka.
Oh, that's me as well.
That's Max again. We've done it wrong. Right, we're going to change your plans. Ross is going to talk about Ireland, then we'll do Sri Lanka in part 4.
Ireland are better than Sri Lanka, anyway.
I need to be rude and need to leave at some point. So Ireland, kit is green and takes inspiration from the rugged coastlines of Ireland. It has got distinctive geology of the Giant's Causeway on the kit. It's on the shoulders, it's all over it. It looks fantastic. It's unique. It's iconic. It is green. And it's like an Irish acid dream or acid trip. And I'm here to lose my mind in the swirls, the curls, as Paul Sterling unfurls boundary after boundary. They are captained by Andy Bulburney. They're coached by Heinrich Milan. Their road to World Cup rankings got them through, gents. Then they beat Italy 2-1, the UAE 2-0, and then lost to Bangladesh. Their key players are Paul Sterling, who goes into his 9th World Cup, as I mentioned at the top of the other show. The Tector and Adair brothers are in the mix. Dockrell and Humphreys have a lot of spin on their shoulders. And then you've got the swashbuckling Curtis Campher, taker of hat-tricks, hitter of sixes, and probably a top shagger in their mix. And chances-wise, they are very much there for a good time, not a long time. They are underdogs in this group. Arguably, Oman are the only banker that they'll play against. But even then, out of the 7 times they've played each other, Oman have won twice. I'm going to enjoy the kit. I'm going to enjoy the pluckiness. I'm going to enjoy the Celtic men perspiring in heat and sun. But overall, their batting is a 2.5, their bowling is a 2, and their fielding is a 3, and their all-round capability is about 2.5 as well. There is hopefully an exciting summary of Ireland.
Yeah, they're pretty decent. I think arguably you're right. They are the 4th best team in this group. They're a bit unlucky. So one of our patrons asked this actually. They said if Afghanistan, Ross, had been transplanted into this group instead of Ireland, would Australia be on the brink? So we're going to divert from Ireland, and you're going to answer that instead.
I think it is tricky. They just don't pose the same threat, and Josh Little is unlikely to even be in the side, as they've kind of stumbled across a kind of a new 11. And I just don't think part-time spin bowlers are going to do the trick for them. I just don't see it. This could be a very, very difficult tournament for Ireland. So I think Australia will easily dismantle them. The issue is rain. I do think they've got a couple of players who can twat the ball, and if they get off to a flying start with Ross Adair and Paul Sterling up front, they could cause an upset in a game against Australia if there is rain about. But there's a lot of ifs and buts to that. So I'm not too confident for them.
All right, fair enough. What's the artist?
I actually haven't got an artist for Ireland. I think they speak volumes
do
themselves. And whoever created their kit. Well, all right.
Come on.
I'll go for a surrealist. Was it surrealist? Is that what Picasso does?
Yeah, sure.
They're all over the fucking place. That's what we're
okay, fair enough. Hieronymus Bosch. Fair enough. Look, we're going to take another break, and then we'll come back. We've got 3 more teams: Sri Lanka, one of the hosts, Zimbabwe, and Oman. So we'll be back in just a few seconds.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast. 3 more teams to go in Group B, and then we'll wrap up this pod. We'll start with the Zimbabweans. Before we do that, though, just a reminder to click like and subscribe. Zimbabwe, they returned to the tournament after an absence, as they made it the last time. After qualifying as undefeated champions of the Africa Group. Which is how you want to get to any tournament. They'll be led by Sikandar Raza, who is a veteran of T20 competitions around the world, and a veteran of the Zimbabwean side. If you have a look at the team, they're actually not bad. There's a fair amount in this outfit that suggests that they will have a part to play in at least the qualification stage, or at least the preliminary qualification stage. I'm not sure which stage is actually called, the first group stage. Raza himself's a good player. Mazarabani is a pretty decent fast bowler, you'd say. And there's stuff to work with. Brendan Taylor back in the side, for example. I think, as Ross was sort of saying, if you're in that sort of second tier like Ireland are, Zimbabwe are the exact team you don't also want to be in your group, and unfortunately for the Irish, Zimbabwe are. Can Zimbabwe pose a threat to Sri Lanka and Australia? That's probably another question. I think they do have some near top level players, but they probably don't have enough mid-level players to support them. We were talking about Netherlands a bit earlier in the podcast. There's a few guys in the Netherlands team who aren't good, but they might make a contribution throughout a tournament. Like there's reasons to be hopeful that like the random number 8 who doesn't really bowl might do something at some point. I think with Zimbabwe, where they'll get exposed a little bit is where the very best players they've got don't contribute a lot. And I think for that reason, it'd be quite difficult for them to get out of the group. They're probably favourites, for example, against Ireland, but they really do need Sikandar Raza to do something. They probably need Mazarabani to bowl pretty well. Overturning someone like Sri Lanka at home, I think that's going to be tough. So I'm putting them down as like an exciting team, but a fairly mid-tier team. What do you reckon, Max?
Yeah, I think I'd go along with that. I think you're sort of looking at like over. If you look at like the top end of what you could get from Zimbabwe compared to someone like Ireland, is probably better. But you want to. Yeah, their mean average is higher, but their median average is probably a bit lower. That's I think where it falls for them. And also, I wonder, given the Sri Lanka nature of things and sort of the conditions, whether the spin department is quite up to scratch. Because you look at what they've got with the ball, and like Mizrabani and Richardson Garava. So, some of their better players that they're quite pace heavy. Sikandar Raza can bowl a bit with a bit of spin, but really I think the spin side of things is fairly lacking, and that could be a bit of an issue for them as well. So yeah, I mean it's nice to see them do well, and they bring good colour to proceedings, and it's always good fun. But I think there's a risk they could fall to Ireland, and maybe Ireland could spring a surprise. But it's it'd be interesting to see how they perform. We don't ever get to see a lot of Zimbabwe, do we? It's always nice when you get to watch a bit of cricket, see some players who you don't often see.
Look, what I'd say with Zimbabwe is I think there is the potential that they could surprise people with how good they are. I don't think they're like one of these minnows where it's like they're just a formality. Like Australia, they're going to have to warm up properly when they play Zimbabwe. Like we'll get to Oman. When Australia play Oman, they could probably go out for a load of beers the night before, rock up at the ground 10 minutes before, and comfortably smash Oman. I think you have to prepare properly for Zimbabwe. So they have got some players who, potentially could upset them a little bit. I'm really excited, for example, to see Brian Bennett. If you look at the career he's had so far, he's only 22. He looks like the sort of player who might be capable of making the step up. Strikes the ball really well in T20 cricket. He's played a few test matches and scored some runs. I mean, like he's not tearing up trees or whatever, but he looks like he's
better average than Zach Crawley.
Well, yeah, no, better average than Zach Crawley in Test cricket. Brian Bennett. There's a lot of noise in T20 stats, but average is 32 at a strike rate of 145. Like he will have, obviously, he plays in the African qualifiers and stuff like that. Sometimes he's playing against subpar teams, but some of that cricket will be against good teams. Like there's a body of work there that suggests that that's a 22-year-old who could do something at this tournament. We don't know. I mean, like he might be rubbish. He might get no runs. But
Yeah, it was fake news. He doesn't have a better average than Zach Crawley, but it's very close.
It's close.
It shouldn't be that close, should it?
Yeah. It's close. Look, when he's 28, like Zach Crawley, maybe he will. I mean,
Maybe
probably will. So yeah, look, there's some bits there. Bowling, I mentioned Mazhar Rabbani. Like you say, Max, the conditions might be a limiting factor for that kind of bowler, but he's still pretty decent. I've given them a fairly generous, maybe 3 out of 5 for the bowling. Batting, I do think that they will be overly reliant on Sikandar Raza scoring runs. They'll need Bennett to come through, and they'll need Brendan Taylor, who's about 800 years old, to probably do something as well. So I'm giving them a 2 there. They're not awful, but they're very thin on the ground. And then from if you're looking at the all-rounders, Sikandar Raza is probably still a very good level all-rounder. Maybe not top level, but very good. So I'd go for at least a 3 there, maybe pushing up to a 3.5, because I think the conditions will help him there. Artist-wise, I went for Chinese artist IYY. Or Ai Weiwei, rather. The reason for this, he was arrested and detained for 81 days in China, then lived under house arrest for a number of years in a period known as his time in the wilderness, which, although under different circumstances, is a very similar journey for the Zimbabwean national cricket team. It's good to have them back, both Ai Weiwei and the Zimbabweans. Okay. Max, do you want to talk to us about Sri Lanka?
Let's do that. Sri Lanka, the co-hosts, or perhaps more accurately, you could call them the sub-hosts or the assistant hosts or side hosts. I don't know. They're hosting
to the hosts.
Assistant to the regional host.
Yeah.
Yes. Because they do hosting games, but let's face it, they are very much the beta in the relationship of hosts. They are coached by Sanas Jayasuriya, the Jayasuriya that the USA did not manage to poach, and they are captained by Dasun Shanaka, who is not quite the Sri Lankan version of Hardik Pandya, as has been claimed in the past. They qualified as co-hosts, obviously, and they will be sporting a vibrant dark blue and yellow, as you can always expect Sri Lanka to turn up with colour, and they will do that in spades. Sri Lanka very recently have just been playing England in a T20 warm-up series in Sri Lanka. Good for Sri Lanka, less useful for England because their playing games don't actually take place in Sri Lanka. But it's been an interesting way of getting to grips with the sides. It was a pretty competitive one-day series leading up to that. The T20 stuff has been, it's currently 2-0 to England, and a little bit more one-sided, which is maybe a sign of concern for the Sri Lankans, but they are with home advantage, so we will see how things go for them. On the batting side, they are quite heavily reliant on Kusal Mendis to really give them anything in sort of terms of match-winning innings. They've also got Pathan Masanga, who's pretty dependable, maybe not as explosive, but definitely a decent player, and Dasun Shanaka isn't bad either. He can provide a bit of ballast at the end of the innings, but they are quite reliant on those three, and they'll blow pretty hot and cold, quite often cold. 2.5 is what I've given their batting, given said reliance. The all-rounders, I've also gone for 2.5 because I think the days of Hasaranga being called an all-rounder should probably be consigned to the dustbins of history. He is definitely a bowler. Shanaka is pretty good, and that's probably about it. They've got an extra 0.5 points because Kamindu Mendes can bowl with both arms. I think that's got to be worth something. It's always fun to see. It's pretty gimmicky, but we enjoy it. So yeah. And it's similar theme, really. They've got some quality, but the depth isn't quite there. Bowling is probably where they can do some damage. I've given them 3.5 on the bowling side. You've got Mahesh Patarana. We've all seen him. He's a tricky customer. When he gets it right, he really does do some damage. You also got SM Malinga, who's not dissimilar.
Out.
He's out
the tournament.
Don't have SM Malinga.
Just dislocated his shoulder. I would have said, I thought you were going to give him 3.5 here because of him being out. Otherwise, it would have been a 4. But he is out the tournament. Pending injury replacement, so that's developing news.
So we've not heard who will be replacing him. Well, okay, that is a blow. But nevertheless, Patarana is there. Hasaranga is there. He's a very dependable leg spinner and will cause problems. Kamira is still knocking about. He is quick.
Yep.
And they do have plenty of spin options to keep teams guessing, the likes of Walaliga, Lianaga, and Kamindu Mendes as well, as previously mentioned. So bowling wise, they'll cause problems, and in particular, they will cause problems on the Sri Lankan pitches, I should think. So they should be pretty safe to get through their group. I don't think they, despite their travails, will be able to supplant Australia as the big dogs in the group, but I don't expect them to have too much trouble with the other three. I think they'll probably have some wobbles. There'll be moments where it might look like things are heading for an upset, but I think ultimately Sri Lanka do have enough quality to get past some of those players. You're talking about Zimbabwe being over-reliant on a few players. I think the level of reliance is slightly different when it comes to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's worst players probably being more in the mold of like the average island player, and the good players being quite a lot better than most of the other ones of those guys. So I think Sri Lanka will be fine. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think they should have. I think they'll be pretty competitive with Australia. They could win that game quite easily, and I think they'll win the others. They're not quite no doubt, but I think they're pretty good. If they've been in a different group, I would say they're nailed on to make it through, and they're potential dark horses for the semi-final. But they like Group B is a group with a little bit of jeopardy if you're Sri Lanka. Like Ireland, Oman, and Zimbabwe are a more formidable task than Namibia, Netherlands, and USA. To use the examples from this podcast. Australia aren't India, so you get the chance of taking down the top spot, which I don't think they would have if they were in India's group. But I still think there's some tricky cricket for them to negotiate, but not any cricket where I'd be really worried if I was a Sri Lanka fan. I think they should.
And I think as the second seeded team in any group, as long as you're avoiding Afghanistan, I think you're pretty happy, aren't you, with your lot? So that leaves us with the artist. I've gone for Henri Rousseau because it's reasonably well known, I believe, that he never left France, and Sri Lanka, probably the kind of team that would quite happily stay in Sri Lanka for the whole tournament. That would benefit them greatly.
Right, let's do Oman quickly. They are led by Jatinder Singh. Basically, they're a team of old men that are on a big day out. It'll be fun for them. Will it be fun to watch them? Probably not. Are they the worst team in the tournament? It's quite close, probably, between them and Italy. Maybe in these conditions, they're a bit better than Italy. Let's just skip straight to strengths and, the strengths and weaknesses. There aren't really any strengths, is what I would say.
Jatinder Singh's got a great celebration.
Jatinder Singh's all right, and Hamad Mirza might score some runs. I think he actually did get a 50 against India at the most recent Asia Cup, so that takes some talent. They're not complete jokers. They're not like people who don't know how to play cricket. They're probably going to be Arunachal Pradesh in a one-on-one. Like, we're talking that level, or better than that level, but they're not great. Batting, I think it's only fair to give them a 1 out of 5. I didn't realise 0 was available, otherwise I probably would have got a 0. I went a little bit higher on all-rounders because they've got lots of experience in this category. I've got a few guys in their 40s, Wazim Ali. Watch out for him. And bowling, 1 out of 5. Again, I probably would have gone for a 0 out of 5. I don't expect Oman to make any waves in this tournament. I don't think they're very good. I'm not saying they're not deserving of a place. Like the point, I think the number of teams in this World Cup is decent. I would even expand it a little bit more. I'd probably change the format to make it a little bit more interesting. But that doesn't mean they're good. They're very much like here to make up the numbers. It will be good for them, and it's good for cricket that teams like Oman are in these tournaments and that they do play games and they do get to play against Australia and test out how good they are. And maybe the nation of Oman will become enamored to Jatinder Singh and they're a future cricketing superpower. It's, in a way, is how these things sometimes develop. But I don't realistically expect them to do much in this tournament. Max, do you have any inside knowledge on Oman that might come into play and maybe render my analysis defunct?
I can't say I do, Jack. They are comfortably the worst team in the group. They, I don't see them doing much. I do like Jatinder Singh. I think when we saw him for the first time in the it was the World Cup where they had that pre-group stage, didn't they? With the Movers all fighting it out. He was good value. He did that Shikhar Dhawan celebration. I thought that was good fun. That's pretty much as I remember from Oman, apart from the fact that Mohammed Nadeem was there and he's now 43, even older than Mohammed Nabi. And it kind of shows you really. It suggests that there isn't that much coming through, and that they're
I think
found out.
Like a few of these teams, most of the team is made up of players that didn't make it in Indian and Pakistani cricket.
Yeah,
that's fundamentally what the Oman cricket team is. These are guys who weren't good enough to play domestic cricket elsewhere. Most of them are quite old. And that combination of sub-excellence and age is not the hallmark of a great team. Some good ages, though. 2 43-year-olds, 2 38-year-olds, 37-year-olds, a couple of 36-year-olds, 35-year-old. Only 3 players in their 20s. I think they're even older than Australia, which is, going some in cricket. It's really going some. So that's Oman. For artist, maybe slightly flatteringly, I went for Francisco Goya. For a long time, he didn't really do much. The reason for this, for a long time, he didn't really do much. And then in his 70s, France invaded Spain, and he started doing some good paintings. And then after France went away, he did his famous Satan devouring his son art, and got a lot more interesting. So maybe that will be the story. Late bloomers. Max, I think that is everything. We had a few questions in from Patreon, which you can join, patreon.com/thecricketpod. We asked one of Alex's already. We had, I think, 3 more. So let's get through them really quickly. VJ says, will we ever see another fair World Cup competition in cricket? I think the answer to that is yes, but probably not in our lifetimes.
That's a fantastic question.
Look, I don't think there's any reason to believe that we will. Basically, I think that the way the tournament is drawn is a farce. But even with Pakistan not playing India this time round, I can't see that changing. Teams being excluded left, right, and centre is sort of, one team being excluded is for fairly spurious reasons, in my opinion. Is poor as well. Loads of these competitions are going to be scheduled to be in India, so we'll see more and more of that bias. It doesn't mean they're not good, but objectively speaking, if you speak to someone who isn't a cricket fan but is a fan of almost any other sport and explain to them this is how it is in cricket, they think cricket was fucked. And they'd
probably be right.
Yeah. Objectively, there are massive problems with these things, and like, yeah, you can enjoy the entertainment. The lottery nature of cricket means that, particularly limited overs cricket, means that the outcome is not predetermined. Like, you can rig the deck quite a lot, but randomness is so high in T20 cricket, especially, that anything could happen in those knockout matches. But yeah, it's not great. Alex says, what do you think of the tournament format? How good or shit is it? What do you think of the format? He goes on to ask about the Super 8s as well, but like, what are your thoughts on?
I mean, it's not. It's pretty bad, isn't it? Let's face it. Anything really, with like the first group stage, and then you go into another group stage, and then you go into the semi-finals, and all of the rigmarole with that, and who, what gets carried over and what doesn't get carried over, and all of that. It's needlessly complicated. It drags things out. So we're already, like, with the group stages, going to have quite a few games that, like, let's face it, not that interesting. And these tournaments do always take far too long. So there's that. You've also got the element of, like, well, Pakistan play all their games in Sri Lanka, and then everyone always knows exactly where this game's going to be played and that game's going to be played, and it's very contrived, which adds to it. I think that is part of the scheduling, isn't it? Right, like that's the formatting. That's part of it. So yeah, I mean, I find it a bit tiring, and I think it reduces the amount of jeopardy. And jeopardy is what makes these things exciting, right? The fact that actually, if you don't turn up properly, maybe Netherlands will knock you out of the World Cup if you have a bad day. And I think there should be more of that and less of, like, second chances.
I think there's way too many second chances. I actually don't mind the if it were me, this tournament wouldn't have a second group stage. It would be top 8 teams go and play knockout matches.
Yeah.
The whole point of the second knockout round is to get the big teams to play each other. You could just skip all the pointless like permutations, etc., and have the big teams play a big match straight away. As you say as well, like, it gives I don't know if it's more of an incentive, but you probably have to ask the people who support, like, Ireland or USA. But if I were them, I would want the chance of a knockout match more than I would want the chance of going out in a second group stage. Yeah. Because even if you win one of the next round, you're probably going to lose the other two. You probably aren't going to carry any points forward. Like, there's a bunch of issues with it. I would probably look at doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
The problem cricket has is there just aren't quite enough good teams.
Yeah.
Like, if you did it that way, there'd probably be one group where there was an upset qualifier, which is still a lot of matches to get to a knockout stage. The trouble at the moment is you have a load of pointless matches. Not pointless, but, like, matches that are more predictable. You have a bunch of predictable matches, and you go into a second round with still quite a lot of predictable matches before you actually get to the semi-finals, by which point you're 3.5 weeks into the tournament. Only about 3 of those matches have had anything riding on them, so most people are pretty tired of following the competition. And then you have the knockout and the final, and it isn't brilliant. What I would say, I prefer this to the, like, stupid preliminary World Cup where it was like the best 6 teams automatically got into the next round, and then Scotland had to play Ireland and Nepal in the first round to see who got to go and play a proper World Cup. I do think this is right, but like I just go straight to knockout rounds. Every other decent World Cup does that.
Yeah.
If you're really desperate, this is what you could do as well. If you're absolutely desperate to have more matches later in the tournament, make the final and the semi-finals 3 matches, and then have a series. Do something
series.
Do something innovative like that. Don't stuff a load more group matches in.
You could do that. You could do that all in one day as well, or something. I mean, weather might get in the way, but that'd be kind of like a finals day between 2 teams.
What
for the 3
well,
match
I think
series.
that would be pretty exhausting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be what it'd be.
Your finals week though,
drop them into the ground for my entertainment.
Where the semi-finals ran Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the final was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But then, like someone on the TV, or from a TV rights point of view, would be upset if there wasn't a third finals match. They definitely end up having to play that as a dead rubber, even if it was 2-0 to one of the teams. That's like people in cricket don't take any risks. Very risk-averse sport. Innovation is fairly limited, and when it happens, it's usually by accident. So yeah, there we go. We'll be back to do the next bunch of teams pretty soon. By the way, like obviously there's Group C and D. Tournament starts on Sunday, so the clock is ticking. We've still got England to talk about, mighty England, Italy to talk about, Canada. Some big names, big countries. Might not be big cricketing names, but Canada, that's a lot of landmass there. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for listening.